My friends, it's our debate segment, and this is, I think, a first in talk radio history, husband versus wife. I am now joined by Dr. Grace Vuoto. She is the executive director of the Edmund Burke Institute. I'm also the president of the Edmund Burke Institute. Dr. Grace has a very provocative piece up on the Edmund Burke Institute website. Go to www.edmundburkeinstitute.org, and it's a piece on the future of Muslim-Christian relations. And essentially, according to Dr. Grace, she believes that Christianity and Islam are in fact not rivals or adversaries, but in fact allies in the battle against godless secular liberalism. Her piece is called "The Mosque Firestorm: Calling for One God." Dr. Grace, welcome back to the show.
Thank you very much, Jeff. And just for clarification to your audience, if they want to read the piece, they've got to go to the EBI site and click on our graceful heritage. It is called "The Mosque Firestorm: Calling for One God."
Now, many of you may be surprised. Why are Dr. Grace and I on opposite sides of this issue? Well, as many conservatives, we actually have we practice a real big tent. And we disagree on a lot of issues. Dr. Grace is a free trader. I am an economic nationalist. Dr. Grace is an admirer of the British Empire. To me, I can't stand the British Empire. The sooner they broke that thing up, the better. I'm still hoping for Scotland to secede, but let that go. Dr. Grace actually likes Canada. To me, it's all a bunch of drunken hockey players, as far as I'm concerned, and polar bears up there in Canada. But let that go. Also, Dr. Grace thinks her family is the model family. I don't happen to think that, but let that go. The issue before the House is this. This is going to be the debate. 2 minutes for Dr. Grace, 2 minutes for me, 2 minutes for her in the second round, 2 minutes for me, and then each of us will have 1 minute to conclude. The question before the House is, are Christianity and Islam rivals, or are they allies in the war against godless secular liberalism? Dr. Grace, Ray will ring the bell at the end of 2 minutes. You can finish your sentence, but then that's it. Ray will close you off, and then I will make the rebuttal.
You mean I won't be cut off?
You will not. Well, you will be, but you have a sentence or two after the 2 minutes.
No, I mean by you.
No. It's straight. You got 2 minutes? Yeah, Ray has control. Now, I want everybody to know, I think Ray is rigging this thing. He and Dr. Grace have been colluding against me now ever since this show began. That's very Russian of Ray, by the way. These commies, I'm telling you, they all stick together. And so Grace is a big fan of Ray. I can never criticize Ray. Ray's a big fan of my wife. I can never criticize my wife. I want somebody else to be checking the clock because I think Ray's going to give her an extra 20, 30 seconds each round. That's my prediction.
No, he won't.
All right.
We don't need to cheat to beat you, Jeff.
Okay. Dr. Grace, the question before the House. Is Islam and Christianity a natural alliance, or are they rivals? You say they're allies. Go.
Members of Kuhner-Country, I want you to keep what I say in perspective because I want you to remember that I am a hawk on foreign affairs. I have been a faithful defender of the Iraq War and the war against Afghanistan. I have, been really out there saying that we have to use all power against Al-Qaeda. However, in that context, recognizing how conservative I am, I think that today we are losing sight of the forest for the trees. Islam and Christianity are allies. They are both the world's greatest monotheistic traditions. Historically, they are the ones that have propagated the belief that there is only one God, and they propagate the notion that individuals have to be subordinate to a transcendental order. They did so throughout the ancient world. That's what was remarkable about the Islamic faith. It spread the idea of one God in areas that it had never been spread before. And there was a time when even Christian kings protected the Muslims because they understood this natural alliance. Together, the Muslims and the Christians eradicated so much of the darkness and ignorance that existed, and they made some of the highest and greatest technological advances. The great, great danger that we face today is a world without God, a world that is mired in sexual permissiveness, a world that has people that have no discipline, no self-control, a world of increasing decadence. That is liberalism. And both Christianity and Islam are fervent defenders of family, fervent defenders of God, fervent defenders of tradition. We cannot lose sight of the forest for the trees. Islam, if we are conservative and want a conservative worldview, is necessary to advancing the cause of a fundamentally transcendental world order where individuals understand that they have to subordinate their will to the will of a loving, benevolent God. If we persist in the kind of dialogue that we've been engaging in lately, we will lead to some kind of violence on American soil.
Dr. Grace, there's some aspects of what you said I agree with. Much of it I profoundly disagree with. Here's where I agree with you. Yes, many moderate Muslims are socially conservative. They are anti-abortion. They are anti-gay marriage. They are anti-pornography. They are tough on drugs. They are law and order conservatives. I think there's no question about that. On many key issues, Muslims and Christians can agree and do agree. But on the seminal issue of whether the two faiths have been peacefully coexisting, you're trying to rewrite history. Yes, many Christian kings gave shelter to Muslims when they were being persecuted. But look at the history of Islam. Look at the Middle East. Look how the Islamic faith was spread by the sword. How many Christians and Jews were murdered, expelled, and ethnically cleansed. Look at the treatment of Christians today. Where is the peace between Islam and Christianity? In Saudi Arabia, you cannot build one church or one synagogue. You can't have a Bible. You can't even have a crucifix. If it is caught on you, it will be confiscated and destroyed. Everywhere you look, Christians are being persecuted in the Muslim world. Sharia law calls for the murder or conversion of Christians and Jews. So there is no peace. That is a figment of your imagination and of many people out there who want to believe that peaceful coexistence is possible. All you have to do is look at the attacks on September 11. All you have to do is look at Afghanistan and Iran and Iraq and the Afghanistan-Pakistan border. Look at how the radical Islamists despise the Christian West.
Okay, Jeff, you are completely wrong. I am not rewriting history. Look at American history. We have lived peacefully with Muslims for decades and decades and decades. And on September 11, it wasn't Islam that attacked us. It was an extremist sect. And by the way, Al-Qaeda is losing support around the world. It is losing support in every area around the world. It is being rejected by countries and by individuals around the world. So this is not rewriting history. Our own history has been one of complete peaceful coexistence with Muslims. In fact, most Americans had a very favorable view of the Islamic faith until 9/11. And it is those extremists that are driving the debate. And we have to be sensible enough to avoid that. The point that I want to make is that as conservatives, we understand the value of an adherence to a godful worldview. And the Muslim faith is full of an adherence to a godful worldview that defends life and defends families. And so what we're doing now is we're allowing the extremists and perhaps the liberals to drive the debate, when in fact we should be forging a strong alliance with the Islamic faith and using our democratic freedoms and rights to ensure that we move forward in a very peaceful, loving way. One of the things I thought that we should do is we should definitely not have a mosque at Ground Zero. I completely oppose that. But I think it would be remarkable if we would put up a monument to something that we call the One God tradition, a center that would recall the shared monotheistic heritage of Christianity, and of Islam, and this would be a monument that would be a real tribute to what it is to be in America. It would be a tribute to the families of 9/11, and it would be the true way of overcoming the hate of the extremists with the love that is the promise of the benevolent God of both the Muslims and the Christians.